Well, hello everyone. This is an ASCCA event tonight. We're here. We're going to be talking about Bureau of Automotive Repair citation issues that we're going to be. Then there's some new stuff coming up the pike, so we want to make sure that the members are aware. On the panel, we have Dave Kusa, who's an ASCCA Government Affairs Committee Chair. He's also an incoming ASCCA president for 2025. Also, he sits on the BAR's advisory group as an ASCCA representative. We also have Jack Bonadano, ASCCA legal expert and advocate. He also represents ASCCA and aftermarket auto industry in Sacramento, and also sits on the Bar Advisory Group CAA as a CAA representative. So we have some people that are going to be able to answer questions and be able to explain what's happening down the park. I'm going to wait. We're going to take questions, but please raise your hand so we can start managing the questions when the speakers are ready to ask those questions. Without further ado, Dave, please.
Thanks, Rocky. Hello, everybody. Let me get my screen share going. Oops, that's not the right place. There we go. All righty. So Rocky did our intro. So hello, good evening. Talk about some history here. So AB 471, which was a assembly bill passed some years back, gave BAR the authority to cite and fine all ARDs for violations of the Auto Repair Act. Previously, they only had the power to cite and fine smog check stations and certain other specific areas, but there was nothing between the BAR coming in and educating a shop and between taking attorney general action and legal action against the shop. So BAR wanted this issue where they could correct violations without having to go to court and maybe somebody go to jail, right? Which you don't need to do, obviously. So but that was the only thing that was happening. So Jack, in his wisdom, saw some problems with this and brought up to the Bureau through the advisory group that we needed, some sort of appeal process and some sort of remedial training, and perhaps the appeal process should be not just a BAR representative. What would happen before, if you were cited, if you wanted to appeal it, you went straight to BAR in front of another BAR representative, which is the same as appealing your traffic ticket in front of another cop, right? So worked real hard on creating these new regulations to kind of help support the industry, the cited person, with some options so that it wasn't so onerous. So that process, right? So the review panel is made up of three people. There's a BAR rep, a consumer representative, and then a representative from the automotive industry. And I'm one of the automotive industry representatives. This panel is informal, so the panel only makes recommendations to the BAR chief or his designee, and that person has the final say on what happens. So no matter what the panel's view version, called it a verdict, is only a recommendation to BAR. About 75% of the citations thus far have surrounded shops not turning over paperwork to BAR when requested. So far, there's been only a few fines. They've mostly been citation with no fine. And while we're here, so it's when if BAR asks you, they aren't really requesting, they're demanding, but they're kind about it. If they request the paperwork surrounding the repair event, that is every piece of paper surrounding the repair event, right? So the estimate, invoicing, your invoice, the shop's invoice to the customer, any parts invoices that are related directly to this, even like technician notes or stuff you've printed out that maybe they needed information for this, right? So if you're asked for the paperwork, they want all the paperwork. So there's another misconception that, you know, if they walk in at 10 minutes to 5 and say, hey, we need to talk about this, you really do need to talk about it at that point. But if they say, hey, we need to see the paperwork related to this, you know, I mean, I don't know about you, but if I had to go find invoices for parts, it would take some time. So they are supposed to give the shop a reasonable amount of time. That's not truly defined, but generally speaking, you know, 5 to 7 business days would be reasonable in most people's minds. But at some point, you must do it, or you're going to get a citation. So what happens if you are cited? Step one here is call Jack. You know, as you may know, as an ASCCA member, one of your benefits is a half hour, 30 minutes per month consultation with Jack Maladonoff. He is the expert in this field, and he can definitely guide you on the best way to go forward with this appeal process. You can call me. You know, I'm on the panel, so you know I see the information, and if it's if you as an ASCCA member are cited, I won't be on the panel. You know, I clearly have a conflict, so I wouldn't. You know, I would recuse myself if I was requested. So during the conference, you have to. It's online. You don't have to go anywhere. You can if you want, but you don't have to. And you have to represent yourself, and you really aren't allowed to. And we'll get more into this later. Introduce any like new information or any evidence per se. But there's some information later on about this. And remember, this is the conference is about the citation, not about the customer complaint. So, and the reason I say that is many of the cited parties, when they came to the appeal, the three-person panel, wanted to talk about what happened with the customer, the complaint, how they resolved the issue, and everybody is happy. And while that's important, that's not truly what this is about. This is about the citation itself, right? Which is standing in alone on its own. It's not truly related to the customer interaction. And also, you know, keep in mind, BR is not just going to show up at your shop. If they come in to talk about a problem, a customer made a complaint. Ideally, you know, that customer approached you first and had the opportunity to solve the problem. But if they went right to bar, you know, now we have to deal with the BAR, right? So, and if your citation is upheld, you can still take the remedial training to keep the citation off your public facing record. So again, I'll have a little more information down the line on that. So challenges for the panel. So right now, you know, this is all a brand new process. There have been 3 panels. I've sat on 2 of them, and the third one I just observed. And so at the time all this was created, nobody considered that this would have to be an open meeting. So you know, all government action that takes place needs to be done in public view in an open meeting. So it has to be announced a certain amount of time. The meeting has to be announced a certain amount of time ahead. There has to be a posted agenda, and anyone can attend. It doesn't matter who you are. So the result of this is the panel doesn't get access to the citation issues before we're already in the meeting. So working on that to make that a little better for the panel members, because you know, the first one that I was on, I didn't know anything about the citation. I knew less than the person that was cited, right? So that became an issue, right? So we're working on that. So the main reason for this, that they don't release that information is, you've been cited, but you're not guilty until you're proven guilty. So you might remember the Trevor Law Group issues we had some years back when BAR was just posting citations either in their newsletter or on their website, and then people were these erroneous lawsuits were coming at them from the Trevor Law Group, right? So, and basically it was extortion. So we don't want that again, right? We don't want that information in public view until the citation is confirmed and upheld. And then, then it becomes public record. But before then, it needs to be out of the public eye as much as possible to prevent abuse of we, the shop owner. So Jack is going to talk about the remedial training process here a little bit. So go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, let me, thanks, Dave. Let me just kind of back up a little bit and just overall, before we get to the remedial training, and you've touched on a few things, but everyone needs to know that this new program now the BAR has this citation and fine authority. It's discretionary. So BAR just doesn't show up in your shop. It's primarily based, it's complaint driven. So in other words, your customers made a complaint. That's when they show up to your facility. And when they come to your facility, as David mentioned, one of the things you have to do, you have to cooperate with BAR. And for some reason, some of our members don't realize that they have a right to your documents. They don't need a subpoena. They can come in, but again, it has to be reasonable. They can't just come in. If you're a one-man shop, they can't just show up and say, shut down your business, go find these documents. You got to say, wait a minute here. I've got customers, I got cars. I want to cooperate with you, but I need, as Dave said, 5 to 7 days, or if you need longer, or whatever you need time to, to get these kind of documents. You need to cooperate with them. Otherwise, they can cite and fine you. Now, they have discretion. If you work with them and they find some violations, what they can do is write you up on a station report, which is it's not a citation, but it's sort of an informal document that says, hey, we talked about some, paperwork violations. There's no fines associated with it. It's not published. It goes in your file, but you prefer to get that than a citation, because the citation ends up, and the citation can be up to $5,000, or it can be abated, in other words, zero, but you get the citation. Once you get the citation, that is published on the BAR website. So all your customers, all your competitors can see that. You don't want that. So one of the things that I recommend, if you do get a citation, okay, is to appeal it. And that's when Dave said, hey, you can call us. And what I've seen on these appeals, there's no downside to it, just your time. You don't need to hire a lawyer. If you want to, you can, but you don't need to. They're made, they're done very informally. They're all remote. So you don't need to fly up to Sacramento and do that sort of thing. And you can appeal it. The thing that I've noticed, and Dave and I've talked about this, is most people are not prepared. That's why when you call us, we're going to try to prepare you, or at least kind of go through what to argue before, so you have the best chance of at least trying to overturn the citation. But if you can overturn the citation and you end up losing, you have an opportunity, a one-time shot. It's kind of like going to traffic school. If you haven't had any problems within 18 months and you're eligible, you can take, like traffic school. It's called remedial training. We have one of the sponsors is Comply Auto Edutech. They are approved or accepted by BAR. They have an 8-hour course. I'm involved in it because I'm a certified instructor, and I've consulted with them. We put this course together, and you can see from the website, the BAR website will lead you to Comply Auto. So they do the remedial training. I think it's like $295 for the training, and once you get the certificate, BAR will not publish that. So it's not going to be on the website. As I mentioned, how often you could take the training? It's within 18 months. And I recommend, you take the training. Why would you want this thing on the website? Like I said, $295. It keeps it off your records. And the other thing too, with remedial training is if you get in trouble, you take the remedial training. But there is a preventative course where you can take the preventative course for your technicians and your estimator up front. And if you take the training beforehand, the preventative, that is a mitigating factor. We'll talk about that a little later on as well. That means that if they come in and they want to issue a citation, but if you've taken some preventative training, they'll say, hey, this is a mitigating factor. Maybe we won't give you the citation, but we'll just issue a station report. So anyway, that's kind of the remedial training and preventative training as well.
Thank you, Jack. So a little bit, couple little case studies here. So far, these 4 areas are the areas where people had received citations. So failure to produce records, right? We've talked about that. That is, the vast majority of them at this point. So, not to keep hammering on it, but you must produce the records. BAR has the legal right to them. There were a couple that didn't meet the estimating and invoice requirements. So, some of that preventative training Jack is talking about covers this. And then also, if you have never looked at Write It Right, download it, put it on, get a look at it, and it explains very clearly how you need to what should be on an estimate, what should be on an invoice, what those requirements are, how you document. The third one here, right, is additional authorization. How do you obtain that? How do you document it? And things like that. And then the fourth area there was one so far, which was a specific trade standard issue. So we do have certain areas that are described in regulation as trade standards. One of them is automatic transmission repair. And I don't want to get into a whole lot of detail, but if a customer comes in and you determine there is a transmission problem, and you go through the diagnostic process and determine that the transmission needs to be replaced, there are specific things you need to talk about with the customer and note on the invoice that you did these things, that you went through the process correctly. You just didn't say, "Oh, you need a transmission," right? You document your diagnostic process, your testing, your results, and what made you say, "Okay, you need a transmission." And in the specific case that was in front of the panel, basically what it says: car doesn't run right, replace transmission, right? And it didn't really fix the car well. The customer filed a complaint. They came back to the shop, and they did take care of the problem, but they still had the citation because they didn't meet the standard. So this is ignorance is not an excuse, right? For you're not going to get out of it because you said I didn't know. You have to educate yourself. Or find somebody to educate you. So these are the four areas, but these are by no means the only areas that you could be cited for. But these are the ones that are the most prevalent ones. So it's important to know what you need to do, document. Make sure you have access to the records going forward. And if BR shows up at your front door, you're prepared.
Dave, let me on number 2, failure to meet estimate and invoice requirements. One of the cases, which was interesting, the shop forgot to put the odometer reading, and they got cited and fined $2,000. Like, he says, $2,000. Okay, I made a mistake, but $2,000. So he appealed it. I don't know what the outcome was, and I don't know the background, if he had any prior violations and that sort of thing. But that's pretty steep for forgetting to put the odometer reading in. Anyway, those are the kinds of things they're looking at. They've started off slowly, because there was a commitment by the BR chief to say, listen, once we initiate this citation and fine stuff, we're not going to go crazy. We're going to kind of slowly, gradually roll it out. So they're starting to increase this stuff now. And I don't know, there's 12 BAR field offices in the state. So if you figure, they're starting to issue, even if they issue, 5 to 10 a week, maybe, at some point they're going to be issuing more and more. And I think as time goes on, this is a tool where they can find really any kind of, let's face it, we all make mistakes. We're all human. So if they want to find something, they'll end up finding something on you. You just hope that you've got enough there. And we'll talk about this later in terms of why they shouldn't issue a citation, because you cooperated with them, you gave money back, or what were the reasons. They don't issue the citation. Maybe they give you a station report, which is more like a slap on the wrist. But you don't want that citation, because that, once you get down that pathway, and if you've gotten a few of them within an 18 months, you're not going to be able to take remedial training for both, just for one. So, and it looks bad on because I go on the BR website and I see there's a list. You can go on the BR website and you can find out who has gotten a citation from the dates. And some of these citations, they it looks like, the shop is not doing a good job. And if I'm a customer and I can see that kind of stuff, and especially they've been talking about maybe tying it into Yelp or Google and all that kind of thing. So now the next thing customers looking for a shop, and they can click on the BR website and they see you got these violations, and they're probably not going to come to your shop. So we're trying to avoid the citations, and like I said, take the remedial training and preventative training. I think that's big, but as I've I've noticed a lot of folks don't want to take the preventative training. It's like anything preventative, going to the dentist. No one wants to go to the dentist until they have a toothache or have a problem. So anyway, those were some of the case studies we've seen so far.
And then these are the nine issues or factors we had alluded to. And Jack, if you want to review these, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Yeah. So the reason we have this, because this is another area where you can prepare, when you appeal something. BAR has discretion when they come in, they look at your stuff, they find some stuff, like I said, if they think you're cooperating, they may not issue the citation, but they have to base it on these 9 factors. So let me kind of go over them right now. And it says, in determining whether to issue a citation and assess a fine, the Bureau shall consider the following factors. So they got to look at the nature and gravity of the violation. I mean, how serious was it? There was one case that dealt with gross negligence where and I think it was a dealership, I think it was a Mercedes dealership. They didn't torque down the lug nuts of a wheel. I mean, and that one. Anyway, so that's pretty serious. Paperwork kinds of things, nature and gravity, maybe not a big, not a really big deal. I mean, the guy forgot to put the odometer reading in. I mean, Jesus, okay. I mean, anyway, that's one of the factors they have to look at. They look at the registrant's history of violations and the number of violations found in the investigation. So, if you haven't had any problems with BAR, and that's a good faith it's a mitigating factor that plays in your favor. You haven't had any problems. It's the first time, and then they only found one thing wrong or 2 things wrong rather than 10 things wrong. So they're going to look at that, and those are factors they have to consider. Number 3, the good or bad faith of the registrant, including any training regarding the subject matter of the violation prior to the issuance of the citation. This is what I talked about earlier. If you've taken preventative training, if you've taken some training beforehand, before you got in trouble, that's a factor in good faith. That means like you're trying, you're trying to do the right thing. And if something did occur, it was definitely a mistake. It wasn't intentional. So that any kind of training plays in your favor, helps you avoid getting a citation. And number 4, the failure to perform work for which money was received. So in other words, you charge for something and didn't do it. That's bad. I mean, they're going to consider that fraud. So and if that would be a bad faith factor, that would go against you. Number 5, the extent of which the registrant has made restitution to the affected consumers or mitigated or attempted to mitigate any damage. In other words, you gave, money back to the customer. You're trying to work with the customer, you gave money back. That's a factor in your favor. Number 6, whether the violation was willful or was there, again, inadvertent error. You've taken training before, probably an error. Let's see. Number 7, the degree of negligence or maintenance, care, custody, or repair of any affected vehicle. So they're going to look at the negligence. I mentioned that Mercedes dealership not torquing down the lug nuts. That's not going to play in their favor. The extent at which the registrant owners, the directors, officers, or partners, members of or responsible managing employee performed any of the acts. So if the owner or someone who's directly controlling a company is involved, that's probably not going to play in your favor. But if it was an employee, hey, an employee, that's more of that plays in your favor. Like the owner wasn't involved. That's why that factor is there. And then finally, number 9, the extent of which the registrant has cooperated with the BAR. So if you're not cooperating with them and you're like, yeah, get the hell out of here and that sort of thing, that's not going to play in your favor. But if you cooperate, it's a mitigating factor. It's my opinion that if you meet a majority of these things, they shouldn't issue the citation. Say, hey, give me a station report, or like I call a slap on the wrist, a warning kind of a thing, rather than having to issue a citation, having to go through the process of appealing and taking remedial training. You want to avoid that. So these are the factors that they have to look at before they issue the citation. Dave, I don't know if you wanted to add anything on to that, but
yeah. So this would be, when you give Jack a call or give me a call, this is what we're going to talk about, right? These 9 steps here, and when you are at the when you're talking to the panel, this is what you want to say, right? Is like, hey, this, it's just paperwork. Doesn't seem like a big deal. I want to work with BAR, right? We've never had any violations before, so on and so forth, right? And we made the customer whole. However we did that, we either redid the work or gave their money back, whatever that is, right? You don't want to get into the details of the customer interaction, but the fact that they made a complaint and you made it right with the customer is a mitigating factor, right? So these are the areas that we would look at to say, here's what you want to talk about, right? And if you're like, yeah, no, we sold them an air filter and an oil service and we didn't do it, we charged them for it, and this is my 10th violation, and the owner did it, and I told Bar to go pound sand. I'm going to tell you, don't go to the panel, right? So, but again, we're all conscientious and honest, ethical business owners, and if we get a citation, it's an oversight or a mistake, and and that should be part of the discussion when you're talking with the BAR and or the panel. So, I'm going to stop the screen share here so we can see everybody. And then one thing we didn't touch on, Jack, is if you're cited, who has to take the remedial training? So if my service manager is the one who blew it, does he take the training? Do I take the training? Who takes the training?
Yeah, so it's the responsible managing employee. So whoever is, the owner would have to take the training. Now, if the citation lists, not only the owner but lists in the particular employee, then the employee has to take it. So it could be two people, in theory. It just depends on how the citation reads. So if it's just the citation is listed, to the shop, it's what they call the responsible managing employee, which usually, if it's a huge dealership, they have someone designated. It's not going to be the principal, right? But if it's a smaller shop, it'll probably, if it's a partnership, one of the partners, or if it's a small, corporation, one of the officers would have to attend. That's the remedial training. That's
right.
There's two types of training, so I want to make sure it's clear. The remedial training is after you get the traffic school, after you get the citation. The preventative is beforehand. You're just trying to be, ahead of the game. You want to make sure it's basically like a Write It Right on steroids, right? It's 8 hours. Again, Comply Auto, Edutech offers that. It's $49 a month. You can take it as long as you want. You can cancel anytime. And whether you have one employee or 100 employees, it's still $49. It's not each person. You can take it on your own pace. It's remote. It covers all the estimate stuff. It gets into a lot of the detail. It's like 8 hours. I mean, you're going to walk out of there, if you're paying attention, you're going to know. I mean, or at least you're going to say, it'll be alerted because you'll be doing something and say, oh, I remember there's something there. And you can always go back because there's a manual. There's like a book, you can go back and say, is this an estimate? Is it a revision to an estimate? Is this invoice requirements? It's kind of laid out what you need to do. And I see that Angie had a question about taking, she says, if you take training ahead of time and make a mistake, do you think you should take training again since you were paying attention? Maybe, I guess. I mean, if you're talking about, you take preventative training, like I said, hopefully you're not going to get a citation, right? You should be on top of it, or at least you're going to tell the BAR representative, hey, I've taken training. It was obviously a mistake, an inadvertent mistake. We've done this. We've taken training that's approved by BAR, accepted by BAR. Again, a mitigating factor that's going to help you avoid getting that citation.
Angie says thumbs up.
Okay.
Other questions that you might have.
So before we do the questions, I just want to make sure, in order to keep the order going, if we can have you raise your hand, so that way we can pick and choose and also mute and unmute you so you can ask your question. Just raise your, where that is, that's under React on the bottom of your screen, and you can actually raise your hands, and then I'll unmute you for your question. Does that work?
Good idea.
Thank you. Just to keep the order going. By the way, my name is Rocky Kamenian. I didn't introduce myself because
we thought you were Santa Claus.
That's Jack knows Santa Claus. All right, you got to
Um,
have some questions.
yeah, you gotta have questions. Come on, guys.
I can't. I'm not that good.
So Dave, what's the next week's winning lottery numbers, please?
Right. Keeping that to myself.
Anybody with a question?
I do
No?
have a question.
Okay, go
Go
ahead,
ahead, Helen.
please.
Hey, yes, we have a bar come to our shop, customer complaint. Do we have a right to ask the bar what the customer, get more information from the customer? They only show what we did or whatever repair, right? And then I noticed that the customer had not taken care of everything, and the customer told me that, oh, I get a dealership, the diagnostic, and this, I want to see the report from the what they told me. Do we have the right to ask for that? And the customer had to show it to us?
So let me try to answer that.
Oh,
So when
you're talking about the information from the dealership.
No, from the
No,
customer.
from the customer. Okay.
Yes, customer told us, like, I went to another shop, they told me did this, but they diagnosed everything. But I asked them, they cannot show it to me. I don't know why, what reason. You tell me we made mistake, you have to show me, prove me wrong, what I did wrong, right? And the bar came over and they give me excuse like, oh, customer had right not to show that to you. I think
Did
it's
you
not right.
did it result in a station report or
From other shops, yeah, from other shop.
well, were you cited or were you given a station report?
No, the
No.
customer complaint.
Okay. So
Nothing. So
yeah,
I
well,
feel
good,
like,
right?
I
Yeah.
feel like bar try to act like a hero to the customer, and they don't do a job to be like do it fair and right, open book
Yeah.
to see
Well,
party.
so keep in mind that the Bureau of Automotive Repair is part of the Department of Consumer Affairs. Their mandate, their reason they exist is to protect and represent consumers. We are currently in a very good position as an industry with bar, but that they don't represent us. Make no mistake, bar is while they're friendly, they're not our friends. So yeah, and so what the customer may or may not want to give you is up to them, right? But
Mhm.
so and also I want to let you know too, because it's a kind of a misconception. Bar cannot force you to give money back. They can't force you to redo the job at no cost, right? They don't have that power. So if you're in the right, because I've had BR in front of me three times over the years, right? We did nothing wrong. So no, I'm not giving them any money back. I didn't get cited for anything, because all my paperwork is correct, all the processes are correct. There was no violations, but the customer was a jerk. I'm not giving them the money back. They're wrong. And Bar said, thank you, right? Okay, case closed. So yeah, as long as don't confuse the customer complaint and a citation. They're two totally separate things. So if you didn't get cited, good for you.
Yeah, I feel that the bar doing favor to the customer, even though it's nothing to prove we are wrong.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
he act like that. I try to help you guy, avoid to go to the court.
Yeah, they say that all the time. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's, again, and you know what, if and I don't want to get into small claims court issues, but if anybody ever has to deal with small claims, call me. It's I've helped a couple of people with small claims. Dennis Montalbano is a excellent resource in small claims. Rocky's been through small claims. So of the 5 times that I've dealt with, I've been once, and the guy didn't show up, so nothing happened. But of the 5 other cases, the shop won every time. Right. So don't think that just because you're going to, I'm going to sue you. Rock on. Jack's my lawyer. He's got nothing to do today. He'll help me. So yeah. Don't confuse the two.
Generally, let me just say that usually when the BR comes in, you cooperate with them. They try to mediate the case. They'll try to see if they can kind of figure out a way to, solve the issue, make them look good with the customer. If they get some money back, you don't, like Dave said, you don't have to give them money back. But generally, if they don't want to give you that document from the, dealer that said you did something wrong, I mean, it's going to have to come out at some time. If they go to small claims court, they can,
Right.
they're going to have to show, hey, here's a third party that said you did something wrong. So, hiding the ball, that just, if they're not going to show it to you, obviously it's not going to be helpful to you to mediate the case, right? You're going to just say, show me where I did something wrong, and even the BAR person's, it's going to be hard to settle that case, right? And basically what they say at the end, they throw up their hands, and they tell the customer, your only choice now is to go to small claims. Now, what the BAR can do is they can look at your paperwork, right? And even though it's unrelated to this dealership thing, they can, if they see something wrong, right? Like estimate you didn't do the odometer, whatever, they can, like I said, they can kind of write you up. They can give you a station report. They can verbally tell you something, or they can give you the citation. But it sounds like they didn't give you the citation here yet. I don't know when they came, how long ago, because if it's very recent.
That was last year.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
And
clear.
then I find a way to make the customer permission to reach out to the dealership and ask them to email to the customer, and customer email back to me. And I show that the customer said she got a diagnosis from dealership. I call dealership and talk to them. No, every time we request it and we recommend the same thing, exactly what dealership recommended, and she refused to do diagnostics, no diagnostic at all. So I show that to the boyfriend, and the boyfriend understand. So finally, I just give up the testing fee for her, then settle the case. And then Bart came to me and act like that. You have to deal with it. Then I let him talk, and then to the end, you know what? You don't know what you're doing. I just say in front of him, you really don't know what you're doing. You think you do a good job, you're doing a favor to helping me. No, you are not. I settled the case already with the customer, and you do act like you know everything, and you have no idea what's going on between this case. And you encourage customer to sue me twice. Yeah. I say that in front of his boss, Jose. Then he feel like he still act like shocked. And he did not prepare. I do enough homework to show to him he did not do a good job. To just act like a hero to the customer and act like a hero to helping me. But I find out it's not. So I feel like I told his boss, like, you act like you're doing a good job, and your boss look up on you, and he told me that you're the one to accountable, but I don't see that. And you do a favor to the customer and encourage customer 2 times to sue me in different case. And he say, no, I never done that. But you did. You want me to bring the customer over and talk to your boss? I can do that. So the guy act like that way. I really don't like him. And Bart.
Yeah, well, so thanks for the input there. I don't want to turn this into a war story situation here. So, but with that being said, right, and I get it, right. You get a little heated under the collar, and don't get in a fight with the bar rep, right. It's just like arguing the ticket with the cop. You're not going to win, right? So, and as long as you've done everything correctly, there's not a problem. So I think Sal had his hand up next. Go ahead, Sal.
Go ahead and unmute yourself, please, Sal.
All righty, you guys can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
All righty. I remember back in auto shop class way before, I'd like to admit, they showed us a film of Write It Right that kind of gave examples.
You're breaking up. You're breaking up, Sal. Sal, you're breaking up.
I don't know if you guys remember that one. By any chance? All right, can you hear me okay now? Or?
No, you're coming in now, but I get the question.
Sorry.
No.
Okay.
To the best of my knowledge, that does not exist.
No, what was the question? I didn't get the question. What was the question, Dave?
There was like a film, or a recording, a live recording of demonstrating Write It Right.
Yeah, unless someone did something like if BR will come to your facility and do a Write It Right, and if someone recorded it, I mean,
they may have recorded that.
They may have recorded that, but there's nothing official. There's nothing on the BR. There's nothing like that that I'm aware of.
Well, okay, because there was a film. It was, like I said, I mean, I saw this thing back in like mid '80s.
Yeah, and it might have been somebody that made that independently, right? It wasn't Bar didn't make it. Yeah. And even then, that's 40 years ago. It's out of date.
Yeah, well, no, that's just it. And I was wondering if maybe that somebody would be working on an updated version of that would be great.
No,
Hey,
volunteering?
Sorry, I'm late. This
volunteering.
is Steve Tamori. I have a copy of that video. We use it every year at Rio Hondo.
Yeah. There you go. Well, it's 40 years out of date, so be careful.
No, it's not out of date. They tell us to use it every semester.
Really interesting. Is that something you can share in a later date? I'd like to see it.
Yeah, who do you want me to send it to? I can make a couple copies.
So
Makes
well, let
sense
me
to me.
understand.
Yeah.
There's a 40-year-old video that's being showed by training right now on Write It Right on
Yep.
Write It Right.
Yes, it
I mean,
is.
Let me just tell you, I mean, the laws have changed so much in terms of sections and all that. I think that's okay. I mean, I just
Well,
I
you
wanna
guys
see
can
it.
look at it.
I'd like to see it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious too.
Well, that video was never super specific exactly to laws. It was kind of more of a general thing, but
Yeah,
it's
the
still
process,
enough to
right?
keep
Yeah.
people out of trouble and
Oh,
keep out of
It,
process.
it
and-
wasn't specific to laws per se, like what do you do? Do you accept email, text, and all that? It was just basic, 3 basic scenarios. And the bar wants us to have it on hand when we teach smog, and we show it every semester.
Really, I'm curious. I've never, and it's who's it by? Is it by BR or an independent?
No, bar made it, produced it, filmed it.
Is it
Oh.
specific to smog?
No.
Write it right.
Well, I just
So,
learned something.
Let's
I
take
wasn't
a
aware.
look.
Steve, I put my email on the chat.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
take a look at it, Steve.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
take a look at it.
I would love to get a copy of that just myself, just to kind of show my guy, like, look, this is a basis of things, because I mean, it just shows the fact that you have to give a written estimate. You have to, you have to itemize the things. You have, things like that.
Well,
Yeah,
my
basically, you have to fill out the form, get a signature, get authorization. If you have to change the dollar amount, you got to get authorization. The basics of Write It Right. And then there's also a teardown issue. It does not go into transmissions at all, but that's a supplement of the booklet.
Okay. Well, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds on that
Yeah.
right now. But my concern is I want to make sure that, what they're telling you to show to your students is actually up to date, right? Because I don't want, people coming out of school getting a service advisor job and doing it wrong because the information is wrong, right? So if they're doing that, they need to make sure it's complete, updated, and up to date now. So if you can send me that copy.
If anybody wants a copy, put their information on the chat and I'll send it to you guys, and just look it over. And if you want to use it, it's public information. There's no.
Steve, Dave is gonna get the copy of that video from you, and if we see it appropriate, we'll put it on Teams.
Yeah, we'll let you know.
Else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so that way it kind of keeps it clean.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, Steve. Thanks. Thanks,
Andre,
Sal, for that question.
Thanks,
thanks.
Andre. Go ahead and unmute, please. Sorry, Sal. Go ahead and unmute and go ahead. No, you're still. Go ahead and unmute, please. Andre, you need to unmute.
He's getting there. He's getting there.
Go.
He's on his phone, so it's not right in front of you.
Right.
You might have to scroll the screen.
Mute. Okay.
There you go.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm so sorry. I had to, I stepped in a few minutes, late, and but I recently I got this station inspection report, and I wanted to get a little bit more of insight as to what it really means. And you may have covered it. My apologies if you have done. It just surprised me because the bar rep came, asked questions, I showed documentation and all that stuff, and then later on he sends me a DocuSign document that, and it talks about I talked about these things, and that was a little bit kind of I didn't expect this to come at me, so I wanted to see a little bit more about what this is about this station inspection report.
Okay, the station.
So
go ahead.
See, I'd actually, well, Jack will give us an explanation of what it is. But if you want specific answers on that, give Jack a call tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It'll be hard to
Yeah.
answer right now. Yeah. Go
Well, I
ahead,
was
Jack.
going to say the station report is different than the citation, right?
Right.
Two different things. Station report is what they've always been doing, which is sort of between you and the BAR, and it's a document. They've come in on it. Basically, you probably had a consumer complaint, and they found some issues, and they discussed them with you. It probably says we discussed these issues, and they cited certain sections on there, right? And they got
Correct.
Yeah, so certain sections, they sent you that DocuSign to acknowledge receipt of the document. You're not admitting any liability or anything like that. You're just, they want to make sure you got it because they're going to put it in your file. Okay. It goes in your file, but it's not published. It's not published to the world. You don't need to take any, you don't take like remedial training and all that, but it may be an indication that you guys need to take some preventative training, right? I mean, there's obviously you got some issues there. How long ago was this?
This was last month.
Okay, last month. So, obviously there's, he's talked to you about a few things. You can do a couple of things. One, you can have them come out to your facility and do a write it right. That's an option you have, and try to work with them. They'll do that, and that's free. Or the other option is if you want to get your, technicians more in, like what I call a write it right on steroids. The preventative training is like 8 hours. But you can take it and, you can take it over a period of a couple months, 20 minutes here, 30 minutes here. And it gets into really a lot of detail, right? On the estimate, what you need to have on the estimate, revisions. It talks about text messages, texting, authorization, revisions, when to get it, if you're giving free stuff, you got to get authorization. It gets really into detail. So you have a couple of options. But at this point, it should be kind of a red flag that, hey, you've got some issues here, because you don't want to get another one, right? Because if they come back again on another customer complaint, they're going to use that against you, right? We've already written you up. Now we're going to give you a citation. And if you haven't done anything in the meantime, they'll say you don't care, right? But if you've taken some training, or you've had the BR come out there to do a write it right in the evening, hey, you're a good business guy. You're trying to help, you're trying to do the right thing. So I would recommend you do something, you know what I'm saying? Take it seriously and just don't bury it and say, forget about it.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Did you
I really
sign it?
appreciate
Did
that.
you do the DocuSign? Did you end up signing
Yeah.
it? Yeah. It's in your file. So again, it's something that if you have another complaint, it's, they're going to use it against you.
Got it.
Thanks, Andre.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Yeah. Great question. Thank you. Other questions, other comments? Rocky?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sal, did you have something else to add? Sorry to cut you off. I just didn't know if we had time, but if you have something else to add, please do. Sal?
Apparently he doesn't.
Okay, he does.
No, I was still muted, so I wouldn't say anything, but no, I'm still good. I'm good for now.
Okay.
That was the main thing there about, just having information, at least a base point, instead of having to always just, because you can go to the book, but you give the book to your service writer, so on, and like, shit, something else to read.
Right.
Kind of the video as a basis to start with, and then go to the book for more details on the actual specifics.
Right.
Just to harp on that one again, it's like, okay, is it out of date? It's about as good to service writing as, the basics of the 4-stroke cycle, as opposed to all the whole thing with variable valve time and everything. It's like, look, understand the basic theory and then build on that. And that's what the video does.
Good. Thank you. Yeah. So what I will recommend, if you are not the person that is writing the repair orders on a daily basis, grab a stack of repair orders and go back and look at them and review them and make sure that and if you don't know what needs to be there, look at write it right and make sure you understand what needs to be there, and do a repair order audit in your shop. As many of you know, I do business coaching and consulting as well. And when these regulations first came out, when I met with my clients, I said, give me a stack of repair orders. And generally speaking, they were good, but I had one shop that wasn't getting authorizations correctly. And it's like, what are you doing? Well, they said it was okay. You can't prove that. So there, there's no, and fortunately they didn't get into trouble with anybody, right? And you have no complaints, but one complaint and they would have been in serious hurt. So, you document. I can't beat that drum enough. that you want to make sure that all of your documentation is clear. The standard that I use with documentation is, you know, if I have the repair order and I give it to my mom, who is very smart, has to understand this process, right? What we did, why we did it, how we did it, right? How much it costs, you know, what was the mileage on the car, all that stuff, right? Because if you scratch out Dave's mom and you throw in Judge, that's who you're talking to when you're writing repair orders. You're talking to the BAR and you're talking to the judge, right? The customer, they can't do much to you. The judge and the BAR can. So if it's clear, concise, straightforward, and documented well, everybody's going to be happy. Lee put something in the chat. Was that the
Yeah, that was the link to YouTube link.
was that
So
is that the video, Lee?
I don't know, but we'll have to check it out and find out.
It is
Okay.
an older BAR video. I haven't
Okay.
watched it, but it does have BAR in the titles.
All right. Yeah, we'll go look at it. Cool. All right.
So Jack, also, Dave and I were talking about it earlier. The difference between complaint and citation is very important when, especially when you get approached in your business in the shop when they walk in. So can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, when you say the complaint, I mean, like I said, the system is complaint driven, right? So BAR doesn't just show up at your doorstep and does, you know, unannounced. It's got to be, it's generally what I've seen is that 9% is always complaint driven. Now, I've seen cases where a disgruntled employee may report you to the BAR, but you know, BAR, you know, they'll say, hey, yeah, my former employer is committing all this fraud, and they try to, you know, and they try to get a complaint on that to come and investigate you. Yeah, BR understands that, you know, a disgruntled employee, sometimes they don't take it seriously. Sometimes they do, they don't. So you get the complaint, they come in there, then they look at your paper, they'll you know, look, investigate, and then they kind of make a determination whether this is something is minor. They can do the station report as we talked about earlier. This is a little bit more serious, right? They give you a citation, or if they think it's fraud, I can tell you right now, they're not going to give you a citation. They're going to take you, Attorney General, they're going to go after your license, disciplinary action, right? And that's when they get the Attorney General to sue you to take away your license. And that's really when they suspect fraud. So anytime BAR comes in and they say, oh, this is a misleading statement or fraud, that is, you know, bells should be going off. You know, that's pretty serious. They think you're a fraudster, and they may end up coming back and running cars on you, undercover cars. They'll do that. You know, to try to nail you. So it just, you know, it just depends. So this citation and fine is sort of another tool, because they have tools when they come in for disciplinary action. Like I said, a complaint, they come in, they talk to you a little bit. They may, like I said, issue a station report. They may call you in. They call an office conference. They bring you in because you've had several complaints. They, you know, and that's, you know, a little bit more serious. Or now they give you a citation, or ultimately, you know, which is the big thing, is the Attorney General. So those are the kinds of things they do, and it's all complaint driven. I know some shops, they've been in business 20 some years. They've never had a BAR problem. I mean, you know, they always take care of the customer or whatever. They, you know, they give money back or whatever. They just make sure the customer's taken care of, and they avoid everything. They either have a sign there. They say, listen, if you have a problem, call me, call the boss, call the owner, right? Don't call the BAR, call me and we'll get it taken care of. So, you know, they try to avoid getting, you know, the government, the BAR involved. So that's kind of you know, an overview of how the BAR, you know, their disciplinary action works.
So a complaint turns into visit. Visit could turn into citation.
Yes.
The intent of this conversation that I was trying to make is that the more you become very defensive about when they walk in and ask you for things, the worse it kind of gets. I think that the type, when you were saying that even if we get citation, there may be a way out of that too, depending on it goes into a different arena when there may be you know, some other people look into it and see what's going on. There's also that too, right?
Yeah. So when they come in, a BR comes in, I always recommend to cooperate, you know, be professional about it, right? I mean, if you start arguing with the, arguing with them, hey, you can't come in here, get the hell out of here, throw them out, you're going to have a problem, right? Yeah. So you want to cooperate, be respectful. You don't necessarily need to agree, but I mean, you want to cooperate, right? Be professional about it. Now, if you end up getting the citation, as you mentioned, yeah, this is where, if you get the citation, that's just a little bit more serious because those things are posted on the website. So my recommendation is on the citation is to appeal it, just depending, appeal the thing. You got nothing to lose. It's your time and you can appeal it. But you got to be prepared. You can't just go in there and waste everyone's time. You're going to lose. So that's where, this is the reason why, we did this webinar here, is because I believe it was a particular member, maybe, got a citation, wasn't prepared correctly or whatever it was. We wanted to educate our members and say, take advantage of your membership, right? You can contact Dave, you can contact myself. If you get a citation, hopefully you don't, hopefully, you don't have a problem. But if you do, you have resources to help you, right? To get you through this and be able to get you better prepared than if you didn't have, the association behind you. We're here to help. We have resources, we know the process, we're insiders. We're going to do the best we can to get you, out of this thing, or at least get you help to mitigate.
So this is also being recorded. I know that I think everybody knows that it's being recorded. Share this with your chapter members. Share this with any other ASCCA membership or member, and this is going to help elevate our association or our industry. So this is one of the biggest reasons why we have things like this, these webinars. It's for education and help you out as much as possible. Dave?
Yeah, I mean, that's it. That's all I really had. So yeah, just to unless anybody has another question, hang on a second. I'm saving this file. There we go.
Hey, this is Steve. Real quick, someone put a link there on YouTube.
Yeah,
that is the video.
Oh, it is. Okay, good. Okay, then don't bother sending it.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll look. Yeah, we'll check that out. Good. Yeah, thanks for posting that, Lee. So yeah, just to wrap this up because we're coming up on the hour. Make sure you document everything. If you do get a citation, it's not the end of the world. Call Jack, call me. I'm going to recommend Jack because he's the legal expert, but I'm happy to help if you want input from a fellow shop owner and someone that's on the panel. We'll get you prepared best we can. And obviously, if it's upheld, let's make sure you do that remedial training. And I would recommend the preventative training as well, right? It's a pretty good program that is put together for this, and they're the only Comply Auto is the only bar certified training for the remedial training, right? If somebody says, hey, no, I can do that, they're not certified, it won't count, right? They have to be certified by BAR. And currently, Comply Auto is the only one. There may be others in the future, maybe not, but make sure you're in the right place. So with that being said, yeah, I think we're ready to say goodnight, Rocky.
Yeah, well, one last thing. Oh, there's always a last thing.
Right, one last thing.
One last thing is that if you guys have any other ideas that you want that you think that the membership at large can use as education, please either get a hold of me, Dave, especially Dave. Next year is going to be the ASCCA president for next year. So get a hold of him, give him that idea, see if he could bring it down the chain, and we can make it work and create these educational bits. With that, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Again, this link is going to be available to watch later, and we're going to pass that along in Team Talk so you can actually, or other people can also watch it too. Thank you very much for your attendance. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Jack. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Rocky. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a happy holidays.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.